is a second challenge. We've got to be more consistent, right? Across the board. That means even if they are friends of yours, truth is truth. Whether they are relative, whether they are a friend, keep that same energy. When it's your ex-bishop, keep the same energy. This is not personal. This is about the truth. Don't get quiet now because it's somebody you know. Speak the truth in love. In fact, if you don't be consistent and you don't consistently speak up and give the same energy to that as you do to other things, it's because you're really operating out of pride. It's your pride that's got you quiet now. It's sinful. People are thinking about opportunities, getting in certain circles and spaces and all kinds of things, not hurting folks' feelings and this, that, or the other. Listen, don't do apologetics from inside an armored vehicle. If you're trying to do apologetics from inside an armored vehicle, then you're going to be tempted to run and hide when bullets start flying. If you're not willing to get hit with any of these rocks or any of these bullets or any of these consequences that come along with sharing the truth, the gospel, and even defending the faith, then don't do it. Right? Be consistent. Even as it applies to your own life, be consistent. What's the third one? Again, all of these are interrelated. Not promoting voices in apologetics that aren't themselves aligned with sound doctrine and solid Bible believing churches, all because we see them as useful. Let me say that again. One of the challenges for apologetics that lies ahead, if we're going to continue to be effective, is that we need to stop promoting voices that are not themselves aligned with Bible believing churches and sound doctrine, simply because we see them as useful. I can't tell you how many times in my days on Clubhouse from a few years ago that I would see in these groups them bring somebody on stage who was let's say an ex-Black Hebrew Israelite. Have them, oh yeah, he's no longer in the camp. He's no longer with IUIC. He's no longer with ISUPK. Let's listen to what he's got to say. And so now that he's no longer out there, we find them useful for apologetics. Yeah, we need to hear what he's got to say because he can give us insight into what they believe and how to challenge what they believe and how to show them that it's wrong. We've got a person who used to be one of them who's no longer one of them. And you know what I started doing? When I would run into those people, I wasn't so much concerned with what you left as to where are you now? What do you believe? What do you believe about Jesus? What do you believe about the gospel? And every single time, without fail, what I would find is they left the cult or they left that group, but they never truly came into saving faith in the gospel. They still hold on to heretical views about Jesus. Jesus he's the son, but he's not the most high. He's not really God. And they really hold on to heretical views, right? And so we've got to stop promoting voices in apologetics simply because we find them useful. Listen, if you are not aligned to Bible believing churches, I don't care how much you can defend the faith. I don't care how many texts, how many New Testament texts you can parse in the Greek and even translate. I don't care how well you do systematic theology. if you yourself are not aligned to sound doctrine and a Bible believing church where you are an active and participating member, then we don't need your voice over here. We absolutely do not need your voice. And this has been one of the major challenges for apologetics, because what's happened is that it becomes easy to bubble up to the surface of apologetic notoriety and fame because of what you can argue against. And yet what we found out about a lot of these people, if you've been paying attention over the last 5 years, is some of these folk don't even believe, they don't even have a biblical ecclesiology. They don't even believe in belonging to a Christian church. They don't even believe that's necessary. Then when you start even finding out what they believe about the gospel, they're good trying to tell us about this and that. But when you start nailing them down about the particulars of the faith, you start finding out that they don't even hold to essentials, all of the essentials of the faith themselves. And so how did they rise to such prominence in the apologetics community? It's because we were so used to promoting voices based on how well they argue against this and against that we didn't stop to think, but what do they believe? What do you believe? And what biblical community are you a part of? And I'm not talking about some Starbucks get together with a couple of brothers. That is not the New Testament pattern and model for the church. If all you can point to is that you get together with a couple of believers here and there, and that doesn't constitute New Testament church. And how are you an apologist anyway, and you know not these things? It's like what Jesus said to Nicodemus, are you a teacher in Israel and you don't know these things? We got folk out here stomping for apologetics, stomping hard. And yet they themselves are not even aligned to Bible believing churches. They have been arguing so long that arguing has become an end in itself. In other words, they're not really doing apologetics. They're existing just to argue. In fact, they have argued themselves right out of the faith. So, we have got to stop promoting voices in apologetics that aren't themselves aligned with sound doctrine and solid Bible believing churches, all because we see them as useful. Good for you that you are no longer a Black Hebrew Israelite. But go find yourself a Bible believing church as a result of having believed the gospel, and go spend some years getting discipled. But I gotta do apology. No, you don't. You don't need to teach. You don't need to do anything but focus on discipleship.